justify their exorbitant compensation packages and budget allocations. Every 2 to 3 years, a new executive will arrive and propose a grand, revolutionary strategy to fix the company's stalling growth. If you are an experienced employee, you recognize this strategy immediately. You remember that it was attempted 4 years ago under a different acronym, managed by a different consulting firm, and it failed catastrophically, costing the company millions. Your logical instinct is to speak up, to warn the new leadership, to provide historical context, to save time and resources. Do not. Your remembering is a direct existential threat to the current regime. The new executive does not want historical accuracy. They want immediate budget approval for their initiative. By pointing out past failures, you are not saving the company money. You are actively undermining the authority, the momentum, and the narrative of the current leadership. The system requires a blank slate to sell new solutions to old problems. The employee with a long memory is immediately categorized as a cynic, a roadblock, or a toxic relic of the old culture. To survive the memory threat, you must weaponize your historical knowledge silently. Let the system execute the doomed strategy. Use your knowledge of its inevitable, predictable failure to position yourself safely outside the blast radius. Document your specific deliverables. Align your personal metrics away from the core risk of the new project, and simply watch the cycle repeat from a secure vantage point. This brings us to the mechanism the system uses to enforce these invisible rules without ever explicitly stating them: human resources and the weaponization of corporate language. You must decode the terminology. Human resources operates under the public guise of employee advocacy, wellness, and support. However, their structural, legal mandate is risk mitigation and cost control on behalf of the board of directors. HR is the immune system of the corporation, and you are a potential pathogen. When you are evaluated for cultural fit, you are not being measured on your sociability, your ethical values, or your collaborative spirit. Cultural fit is a sanitized, legally defensible metric for obedience. The system is calculating a very specific equation. Will this person accept the established friction avoidance protocols? Will they endure the institutional vertigo without formally complaining or initiating litigation? A candidate with a perfect cultural fit is simply a candidate who has demonstrated they will not challenge the status quo. Similarly, when leadership demands high energy, resilience, or passion in a job description, they are not asking for your emotional investment. Energy is corporate code for a willingness to absorb uncompensated labor. They want the energy to work 60 hours for a 40-hour salary. They want the resilience to absorb the stress of understaffed departments without demanding structural changes. They want the passion to answer emails at midnight without requesting overtime pay. These terms, culture, energy, passion, resilience, are carefully constructed masks. They conceal the system's baseline requirement for low-cost, high-yield compliance. Once you translate this language in your mind, it loses its psychological grip on you. You stop trying to genuinely fit into a culture that was designed in a laboratory solely to extract your labor as efficiently as possible. The corporate labyrinth is not a place of chaotic, random injustice. It is a highly ordered, mathematically predictable machine, functioning exactly as its architects designed it. The vertigo you feel is merely the friction between your naive expectations of meritocracy and the cold reality of bureaucracy. Stop expecting the machine to care about your truth. So what is the strategy? How do you navigate a labyrinth that actively penalizes competence and memory? You do not change the system. You exploit its predictable protocols. First, you must ruthlessly control your own narrative. Do not wait for your manager or the HR performance review cycle to define your value. The system will default to defining you as a static, immovable asset if you let it. You must actively document your successes, not in terms of how hard you worked, but in terms of scalable impact and external visibility. Ensure that your value is recognized by decision makers 2 levels above your immediate supervisor. A direct manager will trap a highly competent employee to save themselves trouble. An executive will poach that same employee to solve a larger problem. Dictate the terms of your own visibility. Second, you must create financial leverage. The corporation's ultimate, unyielding power over you is your dependence on its bi-weekly paycheck. This singular dependence forces you into the posture of obedience they label as cultural fit. You must aggressively manage your finances, build external income streams, or maintain a constant, active network of alternative employment options. When you possess financial leverage, the institutional vertigo instantly disappears. You can observe the dysfunction with the cold, analytical detachment of an anthropologist rather than the blind panic of a trapped animal. The system senses desperation, and it senses independence. It exploits the former without mercy, and it negotiates with the latter. Finally, recognize that loyalty is an illusion, not a strategy. The corporation is a legal fiction, a collection of tax identification numbers and liability shields. It cannot love you back. The system does not possess a heart. It will terminate your employment the exact moment the macroeconomic indicators or shareholder demands dictate a workforce reduction. Regardless of your passion, your energy, your flawless cultural fit, or your years of tenure, do not offer genuine emotional loyalty to an entity structurally incapable of reciprocity. Offer professionalism, offer strict contractual fulfillment, but reserve your loyalty exclusively for your own career trajectory, your own skill acquisition, and your own financial security. Use company policy to your advantage by understanding its true dispassionate intent. Read the employee handbook not as a moral guide to behavior, but as a detailed map of the company's legal anxieties. When they mandate certain bureaucratic protocols, find the blind spots in those protocols that allow you to optimize your own time and energy. The corporate labyrinth is entirely navigable, but you can only navigate it once you accept that the walls are not there to guide you to the center. They are there to keep you walking in circles, generating power for the machine. Stop looking for the exit the system painted on the wall. Extract the resources you need, build your own door, and walk through it on your own terms. The lie you were told on your first day, embedded in onboarding seminars and glossy handbooks, is that the corporate structure is a meritocracy designed to foster and reward excellence. You were told that intelligence, efficiency, and truth-telling are the absolute currencies of upward mobility. The truth is entirely different. The truth is that the modern corporation is a vast, self-preserving bureaucracy. It does not optimize for brilliance or innovation. It optimizes for predictability. You have likely felt it. You sit in a quarterly performance review or a strategic alignment meeting, and a profound dissonance washes over you. You present a flawlessly logical solution to a glaring operational inefficiency, and instead of applause, you are met with awkward silence, defensive posturing, or polite marginalization. You experience a distinct institutional vertigo. You feel dizzy because the stated rules of the game directly contradict the actual hidden mechanics of the board. You assume you made a mistake. You assume your presentation was flawed. You did not, and it was not. You simply misunderstood what the system is programmed to protect. To navigate this labyrinth, you must first strip away the illusion of individual malice. When your manager promotes an obviously inferior colleague, or when executive leadership ignores a critical systemic failure, your immediate instinct is to attribute this to stupidity or wickedness. This is an analytical error. The system does not operate on human morality. It operates on the mechanical pursuit of absolute stability. An organization is fundamentally hostile to volatility, even if that volatility is a byproduct of positive, necessary change. Truthfulness is inherently volatile. Identifying a broken process means someone must take responsibility for fixing it. It requires budget reallocation, timeline adjustments, and the painful admission of prior failure. All of these actions generate institutional friction. The employee who identifies the truth becomes the source of that friction. Conversely, consider the employee who remains silent, the employee who smiles through catastrophic inefficiencies, who files the redundant paperwork, and who hits the arbitrary, easily manipulated metrics, generates zero friction. The system rewards those who do not cause problems, not those who solve them. A solved problem means acknowledging a structural flaw existed in the first place. A hidden problem maintains the illusion of stability and managerial competence. Therefore, the architecture of the corporation naturally elevates the complacent and isolates the truthful. You must recognize this not as a personal tragedy, but as a cold, mechanical reality. This structural pursuit of friction reduction leads directly to the most common hazard in the corporate world, the competency trap. Rational logic dictates that being exceptional at your daily tasks makes you the prime candidate for promotion. The corporate reality dictates the exact opposite. Being exceptionally good at your specific job, becoming irreplaceable, is the fastest way to permanently freeze your career trajectory. Consider the logistical mechanics behind closed doors during a talent review. If you operate a critical function at peak efficiency, you have effectively eliminated operational risk in that specific node of the corporate network. You are a known, highly reliable variable. If management promotes you, they must replace you. Replacing you introduces extreme volatility into their ecosystem. The new hire might be incompetent, they might demand a higher baseline salary, they will certainly require months of onboarding and training, during which departmental productivity will plummet. Moving you is a high-cost, high-risk proposition for your superiors. Promoting you benefits your bank account, but it actively harms your manager's immediate operational stability. Therefore, the system's logical, dispassionate response is to keep you exactly where you are indefinitely. They will pacify you with minor cost of living raises and empty inflation-adjusted titles, senior specialist, lead coordinator, executive analyst, while the actual vertical promotions go to individuals who are adequately competent, but ultimately expendable in their current roles. The expendable employee is cheap to move. You are too expensive to lose. If you want to move up, you must systematically transfer your operational knowledge to others. You must actively make yourself replaceable to become promotable. Once you grasp the mechanics of the competency trap, you must then confront the secondary defense mechanism of the corporation, the memory threat. Corporations do not possess institutional memory. They operate on a mandate of collective amnesia. Corporate leadership relies on a continuous, cyclical theater of reinventions, rebrandings, and strategic pivots.